G'day guys, Steve with Broken Sprocket. In this video I'm going to be taking the swing arm off of the KTM 350 and servicing the bearings in the swing arm. It's probably the most neglected part on your motorbike, and it's quite important to take it all off, give it a good grease and make sure everything's okay. After doing the bearings on the linkages and the swing arm on the RM125, I know that these bearings are quite expensive to replace, so a little bit of preventive maintenance is quite important. So let's get started.
Okay, the first thing I need to do is disassemble the bike to a point where it's easy enough to remove the swing arm and get the swing arm axle bolt out of the bike so that I can service the swing arm bearings.
Okay, after removing the necessary parts to gain access to your swing arm pivot bolt here, you just undo this bolt now and slide that axle bolt out of your swing arm to gain access to the swing arm bearings. Now with the swing arm removed from the bolt, you have these two shimmed areas. They're like a casing that goes around the bearing, and they're two pieces. One will pull out this way, one will slide out the other way. It's quite easy to slide them out, but your bearings may fall out of the casing. Probably those roller type bearings, or needle bearings as they're often known as. I'm not sure what type of bearings they are, if it's a sealed case or not, but I'm assuming that they're going to be the needle type bearings and everything will fall apart. So be very careful when you remove these that you don't lose any of those needle bearings, because they will all need to go back in. Okay, it should be a two-piece casing. It should slide out. That's one piece. It's like a cap. There's two caps actually. And another piece is on the inside. And this is the piece that's actually going to hold the bearings in. And as you can see, it's actually quite well greased. So it's actually pretty good from standard, and it's not dirty in any way. These caps have kept it very clean. There's no water in there either. So let's just take a look on this side, and it is those ones with the needle bearings. And it looks like there's two bearings inside there. One this side, another one on the other side. So what I'm going to do is just slide that back like this and re-add grease so that I don't lose any of those needle bearings. Then I'll slide it all the way through to the other side to get access to the bearings on this side. And that should be easy enough to do. And these seals here have done a good job. There's no water past here and no dirt or grime or anything like that. So this is going to be quite an easy job. I'll just slide that back a little bit and add some grease to those bearings, just to make sure it's got the maximum amount you can have in there. I'm just using the brush, and I'm going to brush it in nice and gently. Try not to disturb those little needle bearings. Just make sure I get a nice coat of grease in them bearings there, and that should prevent these bearings from drying up and collapsing and costing more money. Just going to slide that back a little bit more to make sure I get the whole bearing. The grease itself will actually hold the little needles in place, but just be careful as you're brushing it on to make sure you don't dislodge those little bearings. And slide that through. You can see there's excess grease now, and now we'll do the bearing on this side. There's two bearings. I actually came upon a problem now. I don't know if the camera picks that up, but I have actually dislodged those little bearings, so now I have to put them back in place. This is actually what I didn't want to happen. Those little needle bearings have come out of the casing now, and I need to put them back in place, but it's probably good for the video so you can see that this type of thing can happen and how you can now put them back in place and re-grease. The other side did no problem, none of them dislodged. This side here, about 4 or 5 of them just came off with the grease, so when you are putting the grease in there with that brush, you've got to be very careful that you don't lift, because if you lift, the grease will hold onto those little needle bearings and pull them out of the casing. So now I need to put them back into place. And here are the little needle bearings that have become dislodged. 5 of them in total, so I just need to put them in, back in one by one, and line them back up and continue to grease the bearing. You just pick them up one by one with the edge of the screwdriver, and the grease will hold it onto the screwdriver, and gently place it back where it needs to be. Now with those little needle bearings back in place, it's time to continue greasing up that bearing. Now with the bearing greased, slide that little cap back in. There'll be some excess grease there. I'm not worried about this excess grease. In fact, I want it to stay there. I'm just going to clean these little caps back up and squash it in there, and any excess grease will act as a sealer as well, and prevent water and dirt and stuff from going in there. So I'm just going to leave the excess grease in there and pop these little caps back on. That's one. That's 2. A little bit of excess grease is not going to hurt anyone. Okay, that's one side of the swing arm re-grease. Now to do the other side, the exact same thing. Just be careful of those little needle bearings that they don't pop out, and give it a nice good grease. Make sure it's clean in there. This side here was very good. It still had some good grease in there and was sealed, and no dust and no dirt was in there. Make sure the same is with this side in case anything has gotten in there. And if it is really bad and really dirty and you have neglected it for quite some time, pull those little needles out and clean it out really, really well, and then put all the little needles back in just by using a little bit of grease, and they'll stick where you put them, and put them all back in there if they're still serviceable, and repack it then. But make sure you clean any gunk out. This one here's pretty good so far. No dirt and no rubbish has gotten in there, no water, no nothing. So same process as this one. Do this side now. Okay, now that I've greased the swing arm bearings, I'm happy that they're serviced to a good degree and they're good grease and the bearings are fine. Just put it back in and make sure you tension your bolts back up to the manufacturer's recommendations. Now, I'm not Google and I don't know these tensions right here, right now. But what I do, for all the people who seem to think they need to contact me and ask me what tensions axle needs to be on their 1985 XR250, which I don't know, Google it. I'm not Google, but I will be using Google to get the tensions right for this bike. So for anyone who needs to know, Google. Okay, that's as far as I'm going on this bike at this moment, because I'm going to change the tyres on the bike and that's not going to be part of this video. So thanks for watching.
Hey, watch this video next, or go to the Broken Sprocket video library and choose another top video. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. After all, it's for free and guaranteed to make your day 20% better. If you're already a subscriber and you're having a bad day, just think it could have been 20% worse. You can also follow Broken Sprocket on Instagram. So I'll see you in the next video.